Well, it's 1 p.m. here at Calaveras County Water District. This is our regular committee meeting of legal affairs. It's Tuesday, October 8th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple people on our JPIA committee start the Pledge of Allegiance with ready, begin. Little cadence.
Good for them.
Gets everyone involved. Roll call. Jeff, you here?
I am.
Okay. Public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the committee on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for consideration. No action will be taken on these matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public? None in the building. Is there anyone listening online?
I'm surprised they were yapping about it on media.
All right, item 3 on our agenda, approval of minutes.
I'll move for acceptance.
Second. It's good to me. New business. Federal legislative update. Kelly Gerkensmeyer.
Do my best, and unfortunately Mia couldn't make it, so she gave us an update. So I'm just gonna kind of go over some of Mia's updates that she provided for us just recently.
Legal affairs versus illegal affairs. We're gonna keep them legal.
Okay, so first she provided us with the fiscal year 2025 work plan update. Congress is in recess and the House and Senate staff are working to determine how to go forward on the fiscal year 2025 appropriations. Nothing happens on the fiscal year 2025 funding till after the election. Congress comes back in mid-November and we'll have essentially 1 month or so to figure out how to proceed. The assumption is they have run out of time to move individual bills, so an omnibus bill of some kind will go forward. But whether the bill goes forward in December or early next year will be determined by who wins the election. We're still seeking $3.1 million in the fiscal year 2025 funds to complete the Copper Cove project under the Army Corps program. Earlier this month, Congressman McClintock sent a support letter to ASA Connor asking that he include these funds in the fiscal year 2025 work plan of the Corps. We'll be following up with McClintock's staff to have them call over and follow up the letter with a discussion of support. We've also asked our senators for their support in the fiscal year 2025 work plan. The Water Resources Development Act update.
I'm curious, why, on the omnibus bill, why is she expecting, do you know, I mean, the House decided not to do an omnibus bill, to do, I think, 12 separate, take on those bills at 12 separate times instead of an omnibus this last year?
Yeah, I'm not sure why exactly she thinks that's going to happen, but she just provided these just recently, so
Okay.
I really wish she could be here to answer some of those questions a little better, because as you guys know, she's the boots on the ground, shall we say, over there.
Right.
We won't know until November.
Right.
Right. I think we're in that time where we're just kind of in that lull. So the House and the Senate have each passed their Water Resources Development Acts. Of course, I was trying to do away with some of the acronyms, and in some of her report, she gave me new acronyms. So I'm trying to get away from that. Conferencing between the House and the Senate staff are going on currently. Congressman Garamendi has asked the House committee to include the language that they put in the House bill from him, increasing the Army Corps' authority for the project in the final conference agreement.
Great.
We expect the Water Resources Development Act bill to be taken up after the election in the lame duck session. She wanted to remind us about preparation for the DC trip. And during that, we're going to be beginning to prepare for the visits with Congressman McClintock, Congressman Garamendi, and our Senate offices, as well as ASA's office, OMB, the Corps headquarters, with regard to funding for the Copper Cove project in the fiscal year 2025 work plan. And right now, we just spoke with her too. We are going to determine whether or not we need to have some meetings with the Bureau of Reclamation as it pertains to New Maloney's, but that's still to be determined. At that same trip, we are going to plan on meeting with FERC and establishing some of those folks and getting to know them as we move through the relicensing process. So in that same trip, we're going to try to coordinate that. We don't have exact dates yet, but we're going to try to lump it in with that exact same trip.
So those are the actual working days?
Yeah, but there is, again, right now, the FERC days those days are specific to this work effort. And then either before that or after it is when we're going to try to meet up with FERC. So that's, again, we don't have a date on that yet.
Okay, I've had more further discussions with Michael on those dates. I already bought my plane ticket, flying out on Monday, the 18th, and I do have to come back on Thursday for sure. I already have a flight. So we're just to let you know, we're trying to plan. My flight on Thursday leaves there at about 11 a.m. So if we do have something on Thursday, we're going to try and make it real early. I have a Mountain Counties event. Our big forum is on Friday.
Okay.
Can't
So
miss that.
no, it starts at like 8 or 9 and the crack of dawn and on Friday morning. So we're talking about Monday, the 18th is the day. And that's the day I'm currently flying. We're probably going to be flying out on Sunday, the 17th. I'm thinking that because the only other time, if we don't do it real early on Thursday morning meeting with FERC, which I don't know how that works out there, we're going to be doing it sometime on Monday.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, and then we don't have a whole lot of updates on the Phoenix Energy and that USDA biomass loan. She did mention that the Phoenix Energy leadership did meet on the Hill in mid-September to discuss the updated loan guarantee package, but it is still waiting approval. We really don't have a lot of updates on that.
Jesus.
Michael did even hear back from Greg, with Phoenix, and just said it's still in this weird spot. On September 24th of 2024, the U.S. House of Representatives did pass the bipartisan Fix Our Forest Act, H.R. 8790, with a vote of 268 to 151. This important legislation, supported by AQUA, aims to enhance forest health and protect vital watersheds essential for water supply. AQUA collaborated with Congressman Scott Peters, the bill's lead co-sponsor, to rally support, and a national coalition letter backing the bill was signed by various organizations, including the American Farm Bureau, American Forest Resource Council, California Farm Bureau, Family Farm Alliance, Federal Forest Resource Coalition, and the National Association of Counties. Additionally, during the amendment process, another bill supported by AQUA, the Headwaters Protection Act, H.R. 4018, was incorporated into the Fix Our Forest Act. Following its passage in the House, the bill will now move to the Senate for further action. And in case you guys aren't familiar with this bill, basically this aims to simplify and expedite environmental reviews and frivolous litigation that delays needed forest management projects, utilize state-of-the-art science to prioritize the treatment of forests at the highest risk of wildfire, incentivize forest management projects of up to 10,000 acres to increase the pace and scale of active management, promote federal, state, tribal, and local collaboration, make communities more resilient to wildfire by coordinating existing grant programs and incentivizing new research, and of course, give agencies new tools to restore watersheds and protect communities in the wildland-urban interface. So that was a brief federal update, and I apologize for not getting this next speaker confirmed on the agenda. By the time we confirmed, the agenda had already gone out, but it is my pleasure to have a state legislative update from California Special District Association's Chief Advocacy and External Affairs Officer, Kyle Packman.
Thank you, Kelly. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen here, and please let me know if that's coming through.
Yes.
Y'all seeing that?
Yes. You're seen and
Excellent.
heard.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me today, and thank you, Kelly, for all of your work and coordination. I know Dane Wadley, our public affairs field coordinator in our Sierra network, oftentimes works very closely with Kelly, and we appreciate the close engagement that Calaveras County Water District has had with our organization. I'm going to give just some quick highlights on our 2024 year and what CSDA focused on for you all and for our more than 1,300 members across the state. And we are also engaged in some federal activity. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of that as well, and then I'll kick into the state side. So first of all, just to kind of focus on what it is that CSDA does for you all on an advocacy standpoint, we really try to work on the issues that impact all types of special districts. And so if it were the governor's office or a legislator's office that was looking to have a meeting to run a bill to talk about an issue that's related to one of these types of issues you see on your screen, environment and disaster preparedness, public works, governance, et cetera, these are things that impact all types of special districts, as well as cities and counties and other forms of local government, JPAs, et cetera. And so when they're going to have a meeting, they might invite in, the Cal Cities, they might invite in CSAC. They're usually not going to invite in 15 or 20 different special district organizations. And so our goal is to unite those voices and to be a strong force to be reckoned with on behalf of these key areas, which, while we do oftentimes engage in water issues more in a secondary supportive role, we believe that these are issues that in fact can impact your ability to deliver water, sometimes more than the water issues themselves in terms of the costs, the impact on your operations, your personnel, et cetera. So that's where we come into play. And one of the things that we've done in the last few years, in fact, we formalized it during the COVID pandemic, was we were one of the founding members of the National Special Districts Coalition. And one of our major pieces of legislation, that really our flagship piece, is to define special districts in federal law for the first time. And so our bill, the Special District Grant Accessibility Act, would do that. And it cleans up a lot of complications special districts have found in working with the federal government when it comes to their position as a special district as opposed to other types of local government. On this bill, we're able to secure over 300 local organizations just here in California alone. We brought on 14 co-sponsors from our California delegation. That bill passed out of the House with overwhelming support. It's passed out of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, and it's waiting for us on the Senate floor. We've had positive conversations with the Biden administration. We feel really good about that bill, and that'll really be a historic situation for us to get special districts defined for the first time. Our call to action on that is really social media oriented. We are pushing all of our members to just try to get some notice out there, which will help educate the public as well as members of Congress. I also wanted to mention the Fix Our Forests Act that Kelly referenced, and NSDC actually got tied in with the original co-sponsor, Scott Peters' office down in San Diego, which Kelly referenced. And we had heard from our members that there were concerns that special districts were not explicitly referenced. One moment, please. Sorry about that, that special districts were not explicitly defined in the bill. And so we really brought over some of our language from the Special District Grant Accessibility Act, brought this to Congressman Peters' office, and ultimately we're able to work with Congressman John Garamendi's office to get that inserted into the bill as an amendment on the floor of the House. As you know, that bill passed out of the House with an overwhelming majority. We're very pleased with that. We are concerned. The Biden administration did issue a letter of strong opposition to this bill, which has to do with some environmental concerns from national environmental organizations. So it does face an uphill battle in the U.S. Senate. However, we think that it's a great progress incrementally that it's gotten to where it is. And we look forward to continue to push that bill, whether it's this year or into a future Congress. Now, our biggest issue of the year, and frankly, I think our biggest issue in decades, if not ever, was what opposition dubbed the Taxpayer Deception Act. It was an initiative in 1935 Calaveras County Water District was one of the 140 special districts in the state that passed a resolution in opposition. We were very proud that with the joint amicus brief that CSDA signed on to, the California Supreme Court actually removed this measure from the ballot. We think that's really important because this measure would have cost billions of dollars in local revenue for essential local services and probably many, many, many millions in litigation costs as a result of what the confusion it would have sowed throughout the state and the litigation it would have invited. I think that one thing I really wanted to highlight from you all was that, as you are all familiar, of course, the 2015 Butte fire was devastating in Calaveras County. And so one of the strongest advocates for us frankly, across the state was your fire protection districts. Of course, they tried a few times to find local revenue to provide fire protection for your communities, culminating in the passage of the 55% vote of that revenue in Calaveras County. And the Taxpayer Deception Act, unfortunately, would have the California Supreme Court side with us on this matter. We do believe that the proponents of this measure are going to be coming back. They had raised $16 billion to secure 1.5 million signatures, and they're probably going to be back at it again when we hit 2026. So something to look out for. In terms of our state legislative outreach, you can see, we review a lot of bills at CSDA. Every one of them
Cutting in and out.
and took positions on 195. Is that a question?
No, you're just cutting in and out.
We're losing part of your audio.
About that. Let me see if I can address. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, no, we've been able to hear you. It just in mid-sentence, like we did hear the 5562, and then the next thing you said was 195. So I know we missed something in between there, probably that 1531 number. It might be a bandwidth problem. I would just suggest, not that I'm a techie, but if you turn off your video, I don't know if you can do that and just
Sure.
keep the audio. I don't know if that may work. We'll see.
There we go. We'll give that a try. So with all this to say, as you can see, of the 117 bills we supported, 62 became law. The 78 that we opposed, 13 became law. We feel pretty good about that. But let me just talk about a few of the bills that we worked on for you all. We were a coalition leader or co-lead on a number of bills, several in the employment law space. It's not possible to contract out for services. Obviously, would have been devastating for any special district and its ability to provide services. A second bill there, 2421, would have basically given employment unions, organized labor, the same sort of privileges that attorney-client privilege when it comes to confidentiality. We didn't feel like that was appropriate. Another bill there, strike benefits, that would have offered employees benefits even while striking, which felt like a perverse incentive. So we worked a lot with the California Chamber of Commerce on that. Moving on, a few mandates. This bill, AB 2149, the gate mandate, that bill would have regulated every gate in the state. Sadly, there was a gate in the Bay Area that fell and killed a child at a private school. And so as a consequence, there was legislation introduced that would have regulated all of our gates, required all of your gates to be inspected at tremendous cost to
Lost him.
Is that our equipment that's causing that?
Sorry about that. Am I back?
Yep.
Yeah, here you are.
I sincerely apologize. I'm not sure what's going on. It's probably on my end, although this is rare for me. But I'll keep moving right along for you. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here for you. I know that you all receive a small share of the property tax. We also oppose, I want to highlight in particular, In the budget proposal from the governor's office, you are probably familiar with ERAF. It's kind of a four-letter word amongst our members. It's where the state of California back in the 90s diverted about 20% of all of our local property tax revenue. The governor was looking to expand that in order to solve the budget crisis. We opposed that. It was killed in a budget subcommittee, thankfully. We also secured a number of amendments to protect development-related fees. Obviously, these are important so that your local ratepayers and taxpayers are not saddled with the costs associated with new development in your community, that it's a user pay situation. So we sought amendments that would prevent the liability on new developments for being shifted to your current residents. Moving right along here, I want to talk about some public works legislation. We worked on legislation supported from the Assembly Local Government Chair, sponsored by the State Controller's Office. Thankful to see it signed, AB 2192. That bill amended CUPCA, which is the California Uniform Public Cost Control Act. And that act allows special districts, there's about 400 of them, to opt in order to get higher bid thresholds for contracting. So it allows for a little bit more flexibility and efficiency. We also worked to address some concerns within a bill, AB 1890, that would have affected change orders, basically imposed new mandates with regards to reporting. And then there was legislation with regards to prevailing wage that would have imposed prevailing wage even on products that were produced out of the state of California and then brought in to be added into your construction projects. And so that would have been really impossible to even monitor where projects were being, we have components produced all over the world, really, and then brought together and pieced together at our projects. And so fortunately, that bill was defeated. That's kind of a wrap up on the main highlights from the year. I do want to point out to you all that we have every year we do a new laws series. That new laws series is kicking off with a preview a week from today, and it'll run through the end of the year. We then button all that up into a nice little publication that we share with all of our members. So you'll see there are new laws in all of these key areas here. Again, these are the types of issues that impact all types of special districts, but that are significant impacts on any one type of specialized local service that each of our types of members provides. So stay tuned for that to see what did go into law and what you're going to have to contend with in 2025. I would encourage you, anybody from your departments, your specialists, we rely on our expert feedback teams to help us assess and analyze these laws throughout the year. Here's a web link where people can go to sign up for that and help us out. Also, please save the date for our Special Districts Legislative Days coming up next May. Always a fun time. Again, I want to point out Dane Wadley from our team. He's your local liaison there in the Sierra Network. And finally, very much happy to take any questions that you all might have.
Kyle, what was your Ledge Day dates? May?
It's May 20th and 21st, 2025.
I appreciate the report. It's great to know that we have other eyes looking out for us on all this stuff. This constant barrage is what kills a small district like us. It's just almost impossible to keep up with the demands of the state of California. It's relentless.
I also wanted to thank Kelly for involving you in our meeting here today. He has done that with Dane has been here before doing a similar update, and thank you, Kyle, for your time and educating us on what's going on. And congratulations on that CSDA definition on a national level. I'm pretty sure you got some good momentum on that. I don't know where it's going to end up.
I wish there was a way to force these laws to put in, the potential economic impact to a ratepayer for each one of these bills that comes out, because it's always something that we have to contend with, whether it's a reporting or a new regulation, but it always has a cost. That none of them that I'm aware of have ever reduced our cost, and I just feel like we should have I always thought that they ought to create a law that if you want to build a law in California, you got to bring one to take away. It's like,
well, I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, what was a bit frustrating watching the governor's signatures and vetoes here in the month of September. As you know, the legislative session wrapped up at the end of August, and then the governor had till the end of September to sign or veto. And he vetoed quite a few bills that impacted the state budget because they're very budget conscious right now with the recent deficit that they went through. However, it didn't seem to slow him down nearly as much when it came to signing legislation that impacted our local budgets. And so it was frustrating because they clearly are assessing the cost to the state budget, but not so much on the local budget side. So it's something that we're looking out for, though.
Yeah, no, I think it's intentional. I think that they're continually trying to pass the financial responsibility of the state programs onto the local government. You know, it's like they create these laws and they don't send us a check, you know, and it's our burden at that point. We've become tax collectors. You know, that's how I feel about it. But anyway, terrific report. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you for all that you do in your community. We appreciate it. Appreciate your membership, and like I said before, really the strength of CSDA is the collective power of bringing together these 1,300 members. So thank you so much.
Hey, Kyle, before you leave, we do have someone with their hand up online, has a comment or question. Go ahead, F. Oh, Francisco.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for the information. Aren't these bandits elected representatives that are flooding our local budgets? Don't we have a voice with them in terms of voting them in or out when they come up for re-election? Don't we have an opportunity to talk to them and say, what the frick are you doing to jam up us ratepayers with stuff that we don't want done, that you're off in some office in the state coming up with these grand ideas that do nothing but drive up costs for us ratepayers? Don't we have any voice with these folks?
Francisco, I tell you, you won't see any local legislators proposing these bills. You know, they come from the urban agencies, and they don't recognize, or they don't care about the difference in the economy of scale. You know, while an East Bay Mud with a million ratepayers can do a lot of these things with very little impact, when we have, you know, 14,000, it's a completely different impact. But you'll rarely see, if any time, one of our local senators or assembly person that is creating any of this legislation.
I will say that at our legislative days, we pulled together, you know, 180 of our members that were in attendance to meet with over 80 legislators' offices, and then we've pulled together locally more than 80 other additional roundtable meetings where we bring together our members from an area to talk to our legislative offices. And you know, it doesn't always work, right? But it's what you have to do. I heard earlier in your report that you're flying out to DC to do your fly-in, and I commend you on that. You know, these legislators have, you know, hundreds. They have 500,000 constituents in the Assembly and 1 million constituents in the Senate at the state legislature. And I'll tell you, they have thousands of various legislative advocates coming to meet with them all the time. They're hearing a lot of voices, and what you don't want to be is the path of least resistance. And so it's important that you exercise your right to communicate with your legislator, and that you all are representing on behalf of their constituents engage and do that. And that it does make a difference. We do see it make an impact all across the state. And certainly what we're advocating for 9 times out of 10 is local control. And so that's let the community make the decision. If they want to do something that's going to cost more money because they want that level of service or that approach, they certainly can do that at the local level, but it doesn't need to be mandated at the state level. So that's typically the way that our policy principles go.
And we're the district, our district personally has staff and board members in leadership with Aqua, and we're constantly like Damon's role with cardboard. I mean, we're constantly lobbying against these things that we know are going to be harmful to us. And I think we do as well of a job as anybody, putting our staff and directors in a leadership role to combat, and that's primarily what we do is try to oppose some of these things we know will be negative, you know.
Is there a role that you would want the ratepayers to start taking on more frequently to help your efforts? Because, you know, most of us don't know half the stuff that's going on. And when we sit there and listen to these kinds of presentations, it just gets our temperatures going and figure out what it is that we can do at our level to start to influence this.
Well,
Through the chair, if you, I'd be happy to respond or defer to the chair.
yeah, go ahead. Feel free.
Certainly. Interesting that you should bring it up. It's actually a conversation that we've been having internally at CSDA amongst our team in terms of our strategic planning for the future. And we've been working very hard on trying to engage and mobilize our membership because certainly they represent virtually every one of California's 39 million residents. And so to engage them on key legislation when that matters. But our next phase that we would really like to pivot to, that at least I would personally like to pivot to in the not too distant future is essentially providing the tools and the resources and the training such that our members can even more effectively, I know some of them are doing this certainly, but even more effectively then engage their public to help their public jump in a grassroots standpoint on the most significant measures. Now, obviously, folks are busy. They got families. They've got jobs. You know, they're not full-time lobbyists. But on those, you know, top 1, 2, 3 issues that might really impact a community most, that might really change the life of a community, we want to be able to provide those tools. So it's something that we are working on. I think it's a great idea, and it's certainly something we'd like to help with in the long run.
Sign me up.
No, thank you, Kyle. And it is something that we here at CCWD would like to be involved with as well. And we'll await further action on that item. Again, thank you
Thank you all
for
so much.
No, thank
All
you,
right,
Kyle.
thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly, do you have anything to add to the state legislative update, or is
I do, but I also realize that we kind of just blended the federal into the state. So I don't know if we want to stop between and have any public comment. It just kind of blended together from federal to the state. But I do have a few things that I was going to mention with the state, more specific to some of the recent water bills.
okay? Well, no, let's move on from federal. We did finish with yours, and then he involved that. We did take public comment there on any questions so we'll move on to your state legislative update.
And I just want to mention too, I really appreciate Kyle taking that time. And, you know, I think Francisco's idea was fantastic. And that's part of my goal with this, with the packet, within introducing folks like that, you know, and having them come speak and telling us about these items that we don't even know about. You know, I get focused on the water stuff or the watershed. And then, you know, when he's talking about legislation that would have affected all of our gates, for example, you know, which still has an effect. It's really great to see the different components. And that's what I'm trying to do here with, again, getting these packets out there, getting that information out. We can advocate, we can get into the politics and advocate one way or the other. However, my goal is to get the information in front of people and they can read it and make their informed decision.
I'm gonna go out and try to figure out how to get my gate inspector's license.
Yeah.
You know, that one was scary. We were dealing with, we have a great lobbyist and do have a legislative update at every one of our Mountain County meetings too. So I get this 6 times a year there. And then I jump on our legislative committee and he's there talking about what's going on in you know, in the halls of our legislature. So I do get a lot of information and you're involved with a lot of that also.
Yeah.
But these are all, it's always great to hear. It's always good to hear what's going on.
I can't stand to hear
No, it's, I mean, just to be
it.
aware.
It's good to be aware.
Yeah.
I don't like hearing
It is difficult. Yeah. So my update's really going to kind of be an update on some of the stuff we've been talking about over the last few legal affairs and just some of the conclusions. As you mentioned, you know, the 2024 legislative session concluded on August 31st with a deadline for Governor Newsom to sign or veto the bills by September 30th. So he did take up till the 30th. You know, several were signed or vetoed on the 22nd, I think the 24th, 25th, 27th. And so over that week, there was a lot happening. So at least 9 of the bills that were passed did impact water and sewer systems across California. Starting with Assembly Bill 2257. This was signed into law by Governor Newsom on September 25th. This is one that we've been watching all along and talking about. And this one essentially is, in the past, water agencies have faced lawsuits from people who raise objections to the water rates only after they've been approved and customers have already been charged. These lawsuits often catch agencies like ours off guard, leaving them little time to address the concerns. AB 2257 aims to change this by allowing water agencies to set official procedures for receiving objections to proposed rates before they are adopted. If a local agency follows these procedures, only individuals who formally file objections can challenge the rate in court. Additionally, any evidence in those lawsuits will be restricted to the official record of the proceedings. This law provides a significant opportunity for agencies to resolve ratepayer objections before they escalate to litigation. It reflects a collaborative effort by water agencies across California to improve the rate setting process. In summary, 2257 is a proactive measure that enhances communication between water agencies and ratepayers, fostering greater transparency and accountability in the rate adoption. And the three bills that I'm going to talk about here first, they all have lawsuits associated with them that I think in one of the packets, I did have a link to it, so I can provide that information later too. It's interesting. We have AB 1827. This was signed by Governor Newsom on the 22nd of September. And this basically is affirming the longstanding practice of using meter size and peak water use to allocate certain water service costs to our customers. This law codifies the incrementally higher cost of water service associated with higher water use demands, the maximum potential water use, or projected peak water usage are reasonably related to water service and can be factored into the water rates. Like AB 2257, this bill is based on Propositions 218 and Proposition 26. And we have SB 1072 signed on September 20th of 2024. This legislation requires that any charges exceeding the actual cost of service be allocated to offset future costs. While the Constitution mandates that public water agencies limit their charges to the proportional costs of the service each customer receives, it does not specify how to handle excess funds. Public agencies do not profit from these excess charges. Instead, overages are deposited into the general fund or reserve fund and used as a system-wide offset or credit against future rates. Consistent with the approach, SB 1072 stipulates that any excess fees must remain in the enterprise fund specifically designed to defray the costs of future services. This legislation addresses a situation where high water users have sued water agencies for refunds, claims they should not have to pay for the larger facilities required to meet their higher demand. This would lead to lower water users effectively subsidizing the costs of these facilities.
Is
However-
it the capacity fee issue?
No, I think this is based off a lawsuit down in La Quintana where these not La Quintana, excuse me, La Jolla, California, down south. Oh yeah, La Quintana.
There's only been one down there.
Yeah, no, La Jolla, there was these huge users that were saying they were saying that was unfair, that because they use more water, they had to pay more. So this just basically, and no, that was the last one. Excuse me. This one is if overcharging, it goes into the enterprise fund. If there was some kind of overcharging where there's these lawsuits where these higher users are doing to try to get refunded for those. So this one's a little bit confusing and it kind of blends in with the last one. The two kind of confuse me a bit.
218 is a remedy for if a district were to not apply 218 properly and an opponent won, then they don't have to write them a check. They just get a credit. Is that how I read it right?
No, essentially with this, it wouldn't be a credit. Basically, SB 1072 clarifies that refunds are only permissible if explicitly provided for by statute, such as refunds for billing errors. So if there was, let's say, a mistake, those funds would go into the enterprise fund and then used in the next.
So it just goes into the,
Yeah,
I think it's with the district.
right.
but it doesn't have to go.
But if there was billing errors or something like that, then that would require a refund. again, this one kind of blends in with that last one with the higher users. So
Well, I had a question on the higher user one too, because it says here they have a maximum potential water use. I mean, that doesn't sound like anything that, I want to necessarily be involved in. What does it mean exactly?
well, some
You
again,
can set a limit on consumption?
well, some water agencies aren't doing the tiers. Some are, and this is just basically, this is a very common way of doing our rates for years. And this bill,
So that-
827 is
That sentence just basically means that you're allowed to have tiers.
yes, for
Okay.
higher users. Yes. Again, and this is somewhat of a newer trend that I'm seeing. I've seen now, I think 2 different districts who are about to go through their 218 process where they decided not to do tiers, but completely different
I
systems.
thought the 218, they kind of eliminated or made the tiers more difficult.
Well, you have to be more specific. You have to justify why you're doing it. You can't just arbitrarily do tiers.
Well,
There has to be a clear reason.
There was a while where they wanted us to penalize folks. During the water conservation, they were like, hey, if you're a high water user, you need to pay more. That was the state's recommendation.
Right.
So that has been gone away with. But yeah, when they were trying to do conservation a long time ago, that's what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to penalize people who use too much water.
And this isn't for like any kind of penalty. This is more specific to some of the larger systems having a, larger treatment plant or more robust pumps to move the higher amounts of water. That's what it is.
You watch though, you'll see legislation start to come down where they're gonna, because they're trying to get everybody to get down to the 57 gallons per day. How are they gonna do that?
Right.
They're gonna do it with money, most likely.
Or if we go through another significant drought, who knows what can come from that.
Well, we don't have to go through a drought. They're mandating that we reduce the usage, and we have to be the ones that
Right.
have to enforce it. Even though that's how we pay our bills, through water sales. Well,
It just seems like some of the recent droughts really expedite some of these new policies or these new restrictions. So we'll see. I think the last few years we've had a decent amount of water, haven't had that.
No, we're
scarcity,
not
but-
hearing that word drought a whole bunch, but it's not if.
Right.
If it is when we will be going through another.
Right. I'm holding off buying a snow blower because I know if I buy a snow blower, then it will be a horrible winter. We won't get enough snow and I'll have this brand new snow blower that I'll have to just go start every now and then. So I'm trying to do my part to ensure that we don't go through another drought anytime soon and we have good winters. So I don't know what you guys are doing to prevent the next drought, but that's what I'm
I'm
doing.
not gonna buy my snow blower for here in San Andreas for a long time. I'll hold off as well.
Right.
Do my part.
if I I'd talk to Bertha. I think she's gonna have one for sale.
Oh, there you go. So this one, I feel like we've been reporting on SB 1088 for a long time. This one never made it to the governor's desk, and this was in our last packet. I just wanted to kind of bring it to our attention one last time, even though, again, it never even made it to his desk. But, this legislation did have the potential to significantly improve fire safety for water agencies in the wildland urban interface, enhancing our ability to respond to wildfire threats. Despite the setback, though, it is essential that we continue to advocate for fire protection measures and remain engaged in future legislative efforts. I was kind of bummed that this one failed. I think this one had a lot of promise for a district like us, really potential.
But it was all dependent on Prop 4.
It was,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that, I kind of have heard some of these bills were killed again for funding issues, not necessarily that it was a bad bill, but
Right.
we might not ever know, but I had some interesting conversations with folks about this that, that's might have been why it didn't make it to his desk. Another one that we've been watching is this SB 1255.
So when these are just marked failed. This one was approved by the Senate and the Assembly and made it to his desk and was vetoed? Is that?
No, not vetoed, no.
Okay.
These 2 that I'm talking about right now never even made it to his desk.
It never made it out of
No.
the Senate?
Yeah,
Okay.
this one, I reported on this last time, and this was that low income rate assistance bill. This is one that Aqua maintained and opposed unless amended position, which ultimately led to the bill failing to pass out of the Assembly Appropriations Committee's suspense file.
Well, this one was the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard of.
It feels like they sugarcoated it as a low, I mean, I think a low income rate assistance bill is fantastic.
Yeah,
We
that-
all,
it
we
is.
all agree with that, but it was,
The funding, how do you, how this
Right.
was funded, which is worse than the last one that that they brought forward.
yeah,
This is going to be funded by your own ratepayers. But
right.
they-
And the-
And they'd have to opt out. It would
Yes.
Yeah, they'd have
disappear.
to be automatically
Yeah.
would be charged. And some people, it's not paying attention. Oh, my bill went up again.
Right.
What, why did it go up this time? And it's gonna be because of this. And if you don't opt out, no, it just seemed absolutely.
And even being
ridiculous.
funded by voluntary, we wouldn't be able to guarantee being able to fund it. I mean,
Right.
We couldn't ensure that. it
I
funded.
would hope that if this had passed, that we at CCWD would be telling every one of our customers, you have to, if you want, if you don't want to be paying extra money for your bill next month, you're gonna have to opt out, and here's how you opt out, and repeat that every single day until everyone is opted out, because I don't think we have a ratepayer who would want to be opted in on this program.
Right. It would have been very, very difficult for us. So hopefully something, somebody works on this again and again, because a low income rate assistance bill is.
No, it's gotta be funded by the
would be
state.
helpful.
Gotta
Yeah.
be funded by somebody's gotta put a pot of money in there to do one.
Yeah. The reason why I brought these last two up, even though, they failed, I just wanted to kind of bring them to your attention and just give a brief update. There was a few other bills that were signed. I don't really see these specifically impacting CCWD, but they were water related. AB 2454, signed on the 24th, mandates that owners of domestic wells for rental properties participate in state testing, share results with residents, and provide safe drinking water if standards are exceeded. It prohibits testing fees and penalizes false statements about results. Again, that doesn't really directly affect CCWD, but it was something that was signed. SB 1188, signed on the 24th, sets minimum technical, managerial, and financial standards for small water systems in California, serving under 10,000 connections. This legislation aims to ensure these systems maintain adequate revenue, staffing, and infrastructure to provide safe drinking water.
So when it says, on this one here, 1188, that, water systems, we have several water systems serving less than 10,000 people, but, or are they talking about the district?
That's such a good question. There's different reporting that puts us just simply over that, that 3,000 mark. Even there's 3,000 seems to be a threshold for an urban water agency or not. And so that's a good question. But a lot of times we're lumped in with all of our connections for most of this reporting.
So
So
I just
again,
want to make, I want to make note for our viewing audience. It's like, we got Santa Clara D, Santa Cruz D, Orinda D, Fresno D. So if you want to know where this stuff's coming, let's turn the page and we'll get a Glendale D and a Santa Barbara D.
right. And again, that's, my personal objective is not to take, too much of a stance here, just to provide the information and just show what we're up against and what we're facing. AB 460, that was talked about a lot. That was signed on September 22nd. This is kind of spawned off of some of the diverters up on Shasta River. I'm not sure if you guys have heard some of the ranchers up there. But it basically increases the penalties for illegal water use. It mandates annual inflation adjustments for civil penalties starting in 2026. It raises cease and desist orders fines from 1,000 to 2,500 per day. Increases permit non-compliance fines from 500 to 1,000 per day, and sets curtailment violation fines at $10,000 per day plus $2,500 per acre foot of water. There was significant amendments to AB 460. The amendments represented an extraordinary improvement to the bill, which previously would have granted the State Water Resources Control Board basically new and sweeping authority to prevent diverters from exercising their water rights. So Aqua worked really hard on this one to get this. Again, it's an interesting story if you look into the story behind this bill from some of those ranchers up north.
Yeah, why is Rebecca Kahan from Orinda, why is she submitting this bill? What's the skin in her district's game?
I recommend you look into the story, like Google that when you get a chance
This,
and
this was probably one of those water rights that there was 3 bills last year
Yeah.
that didn't make it. And I think that what Aqua was doing is combining the 3 together and taking good pieces out of each of them to come up with this.
and
I don't know how she ended up as getting, as authoring the bill. But she authored one of those original, water rights bills.
it was really mainly about the penalties. I remember when I went to one of the Aqua conferences, the original penalties were so low and some of these diverters just pretty much said, we're doing what we want with this water. And the penalties were so low that I think the state
Cheaper
water,
than the price of buying the water.
the water board had kind of no authority. So this was more to give it authority. Initially, they went for too much authority. And then Aqua worked really hard to kind of rein it back and say, okay, if it's fees you're after for people who are illegally diverting, then we can work with that. But it's really about the fees. And from what I understand, I don't know what they were, but the fees before and the penalties were very, very low.
These seem stiff.
Yeah. So that's probably what it is more to deter that.
Thank you.
And then where are we?
805.
Yeah, 805, that was signed on the 24th. This allows the state water board to take over struggling sewer systems in disadvantaged communities that fail to maintain the necessary capacities. The board must first provide an opportunity for the system to demonstrate the state intervention. Basically that state intervention is necessary. Once in control, the board can improve operations, aiming for the system to run independently again. Again, I don't feel that we don't have any failing wastewater.
No,
systems.
we don't, but there's definitely small communities in
There
our,
is.
in our area that, I mean, I don't know what they're, I mean, is not keeping up with your infrastructure, is that, is that reason?
Right.
Or is,
Yeah.
I mean, what are the reasons for failure? I mean, how does this, I mean, is this something where, I mean, who complains? Is it just a violation? If they get a notice of violation, then the state comes and looks at it and starts this process, or is this a process that the public starts? How does it start?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any failing wastewater systems in Calaveras. I haven't heard of any, so I'm where that's
What do
stemming
you
from.
consider failing? I mean,
Well, it says right here, the definition, the system must serve a disadvantaged community and
well, that's not.
must have a demonstrated failure to maintain technical, managerial, or financial capacity to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. And the state water board has the authority to
Well, that's not a
find out.
definition of, of failure.
Well, in their definition, it is. That is the definition of
It's the
failure.
Maintaining
It's gonna be
people, does that include?
managerial or
planning
finance.
for replacement?
I can only imagine it's a very, very small little wastewater district that's just not taking care of business. They've got spills. There's no financial oversight. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm sure there's several of those pockets throughout California. Again, what I like by saying this is this is my angle of saying Calaveras County Water District doesn't have any of this, we don't have this situation currently. So I'm very proud of that. We have 13 different wastewater facilities and, and I think we operate them at a very high level.
Well, it's interesting because they said it would have broad powers to improve the system. Does that include,
Funding.
well, no, I mean, I assume this would improve setting a rate structure without, would they have to go through the 218 process to do that?
That's a great question. I wonder if the state would, or if they're
You know.
coming in and just doing what they have to do. That's a good
Because
question.
the majority of the reason for failure is the inability to raise rates where they need to be to maintain the facility. And that's a very common tale in California, I agree with you that this is not something we have to be worried about, but I think in the rural areas like this, you're gonna see a lot of this. We'll just have to see how it shakes out.
Well, I don't think we'll have this water board knocking on our door anytime soon.
No, not our door, but it's,
Yeah.
it's,
If they were be knocking on our door, it would, I think what Jeff's alluding to, it'd be one of these developer created small sewer systems for a small community that is affected by this and the state board takes them over. And what happens then?
well, I can bring up an example. I'll say one example that could have happened if they hadn't come and requested us take it over. That's Wallace Community Service District,
Mhm, exactly.
I mean, if they had, run out of the will, it's not, sometimes, They just run out of the will to do it. I mean, you know, when you only got 100, you know, I mean, that's,
Would, I don't know, is that considered a disadvantaged community? Would that, I don't recall.
oh, it might not. Yeah.
You know, it would fit into this, but that just happened. And the other one, the
Right.
other Fly on Acres, the other one, the other district that we happened to swallow up also came to us and it was resolved way differently
Mhm.
than Wallace was. Wallace still exists. They still do lighting and roads. And we just took over a portion of them and they gave us their bank account. We improved their system
Yeah.
with their money.
So there was a few that were vetoed. Again, I don't know if we should waste too much time if they were vetoed, but one was AB 3023. That was Assemblymember Diane Pappin, a Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force, Interagency Funding Strategy, SB 366 and SB 828. There is more information in the packet about these, but these were all vetoed by the governor. And then we have, with just 28 days until Election Day on November 5th, pretty sure my math is right there. It's essential to stay informed about Prop 4, the Safe Drinking Water, Wildfire Prevention, Drought Preparedness, and Clean Air Bond Act of 2024. I just call it the climate bond because it's a lot easier, but that's what it's called. Some of the recent polls, these were from September polling that shows 61% of voters are in favor, 30% oppose, and 9% are undecided. This bond does aim to provide critical funding for climate resilience projects across communities, ensuring sustainable future for California. And again, for more information, I included quite a bit of information in the packet there.
There is a next step. Our work here at CCWD towards this bill and contacting our legislators is to bring this money and make sure some of this money comes to the foothills, comes to the mountain counties. And
Right.
that's still possible. Right now, it's not directed anywhere, but just the way money flows through Sacramento, it usually doesn't flow to the foothills and to the rural communities for any of these issues. But I do think it will pass. We just got a lot of work to do, if and when it does.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you guys have found any other polls. This was through the Public Policy Institute of California, which had this, and this was, I think, mid-September.
That's the first poll I've seen on it.
Yeah, that's what I haven't found a lot either. And I was trying to find something more recent as we get closer, because again, it's close, but I think this was,
What's that noise?
oh no.
Oh, you guys are gone. Just stopped. Oh,
Maybe not.
I think it would be worthy of a discussion.
what happened?
Okay.
You guys
'Cause,
disappeared.
I mean-
Then you can pull it or not put it in there in the first place. Anyway, that's our president does makes those decisions.
And in the packet, I did try to include a lot of information about it, again, the pros and the cons, but you bring up a good point that if this does pass, our work will certainly ramp up with trying to get
Yeah,
that.
there's
those
nothing
funds up here.
nothing says that any of this money's coming to Calaveras County.
Right.
But it could in the future.
That concludes my report. If you guys have any questions.
Okay, well, that was, it's okay. So that, we're done with state level. We're not done yet. We will take any more comments, Jeff, yourself?
Nope.
We have public comment. Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Go
Mr.
ahead, Francisco.
Yes, on some of the things that are discussed in terms of changes in law, I've got a current problem that is now 2 weeks old, where the customer portal reporting system is not reporting usage. it is reporting that the meter stopped recording data on 8/1. Yet I got a bill on September 16th that doubled my,
The agenda item is state legislator update, Francisco. I don't know if we're on topic here.
I thought we were talking about some of the
Oh.
things that smaller agencies are going to be held accountable for doing with the new legislation.
What new legislation are you referring to here?
I'm referring to the smaller agencies that are being held accountable for mismanagement or failures or fraud or what have you. It doesn't directly affect CCWD. I'm pointing out a problem that does affect CCWD that hasn't been resolved. And I'm wondering, what does a ratepayer have to do to get a problem of recording actual usage addressed in a timely manner?
I'd contact customer service.
Yeah,
I
contact the
have. I
front desk.
contacted Kelly and I contacted Kelly R and Kelly G. They're both aware of it, and I kept Michael Minkler out of it, giving lower management an opportunity to resolve something that I don't know if it's a major issue when.
Okay, we're a legal affairs committee here. We're gonna stay out of it as well. So please continue with customer service.
My representative is on the board right there. Mr.
Maybe
Davidson.
805 or 460. But yeah, please continue working with customer service on that.
I'm making Mr. Davidson aware of it as my division representative.
Okay, and that you've accomplished. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank-
I'm aware of it. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Okay, seeing none. Director, item 5 on our agenda is director comments or future agenda items.
I have no comments.
Okay, and I don't have any comments. We did have a future agenda item we've made note of. Not for this, this will continue on with the two main new business items that we have. And our next meeting, December 3rd, that will be, is that a firm date on our calendar? Okay, that'd be a good, Tuesday, December 3rd, 1 PM here for this committee. That would be a good, post DC trip, download. Okay, with that,
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Like with the speakers, is there anything else you guys would like to see? How's that working? Some of the speakers that we've had, is there something more you'd like to see as far as that goes? Again, I'm trying to
No,
just present you guys.
I enjoy seeing the agencies that we're members of give these reports. I mean, it's good, and I think it's good for the public to know that that we are engaged in these agencies, and a lot of these meetings that we attend that they question are related to things just like this.
Yeah.
Educate ourselves and find out and to show our opposition or support with different legislation. I mean, that's a big part of what we do here is try to keep stuff from coming in the door that's going to cost everybody more money that we don't feel has a significant impact.
Right.
So I enjoy having these people that we pay for these memberships, and it's great to have a report from them. So I appreciate.
no, and we have used Aqua, Chelsea Haynes. I mean, that's a big name at Aqua to get here to report to us and commend you for doing that. Dane Waddle, Kyle today at CSDA. Also tap Mountain Counties, Jason or Justin,
Right.
or the Jason Justin show would also work during this meeting too, and I'm sure they'd be happy to. I mean, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They're offering 15, 20 minutes, and to Director Davidson's point, it does justify that it's in itself justifies what they're doing for us, number one, but then also coming here and commenting on that. I continue, please.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned Justin. I did reach out to him. He had prior engagements today, so he couldn't make today's. But if you guys have any other suggestions, I enjoy it. Especially folks like Kyle, they live and breathe this stuff. They
Mhm.
are really, really involved.
No, and you can tell. You
Yeah,
can tell. It's
and-
all on the tip of their tongue. They've talked about it yesterday, today, and they will tomorrow. This is what
Right.
they live. Good job.
Right. Thank
No,
you.
and why recreate the wheel for yourself and study up when it's easier, and better, most likely, than what we can come up with, listening to the professionals. And if they're willing to come here, that is awesome. Showcase
Great.
them.
Well, if you have any other suggestions, you come across any, fantastic speakers or names, let me know and I'll pursue that.
Will do.
Thank you.
Kelly, I have a suggestion that whenever directors attend these off-site meetings, they submit a formal trip report rather than just a comment that it was a very interesting meeting.
Okay, thank you. With this, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.